Good afternoon, everyone. The Sacramento City Council will please come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish a quorum?
Thank you. Vice Mayor Ashby.
Here.
Councilmember Laloe.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Here.
Councilmember Chenier.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra.
Here.
Councilmember Jennings.
I am present.
Councilmember Vang.
Here.
And Mayor Steinberg.
I am here. Excuse me one second. Good afternoon, everybody. Let us begin this evening with the land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance. I will take the honor tonight, if that's okay. I'd ask everyone to please rise for the opening acknowledgements in honor of Sacramento's indigenous people and tribal lands. To the original people of this land, the Nisenan people, the Southern Maidu, Valley, and Plans Miwok, the Patwin Wintun peoples, and the people of the Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the Native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's indigenous people's history, contributions, and lives. Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, and welcome to my colleagues, the staff, city staff, and the members of the public. We begin tonight with a very special presentation, and I'd like to turn it over to the chair of our library JPA, Councilmember Eric Guerra, to begin the presentation.
Well, thank you, everybody. It's an honor to be last year's chair of the Sacramento County Public Library Authority. And after many years of service from Rivka Sass, we had to go out and look for someone who can continue in controlling and running the helm of our local public library. So we searched far and wide, local and afar, and found out that we found a great candidate here with Peter Coyle. Peter comes to us, with a breadth of experience, not only with understanding how libraries serve so many communities and more than just providing books and literature, but how they are places to transform communities and provide opportunities. He also comes and understands how to manage a library authority that has multiple branches. I think one of the library systems that he was part of had 76 individual branches, which is important for a system like ours here as well. We were able to take him away from a very well-run library system in the East Coast. But the interesting thing that I'll let Peter explain is that we have somebody who wanted to make sure that he could continue to make Sacramento his home. So I'll leave it up for Peter to describe. But everyone, welcome our new director of the Sacramento Public Library, Peter Coyle.
Thank you, Chair Guerra, for that kind introduction. I'm honored to be here today to be introduced to you. I had the pleasure of meeting some of you during the interview panel. And as Chair Guerra said, I'm excited to be here. I started my library career actually here in Sacramento as a boy when I got my first library card at the Sacramento Public Library. And while I've been away for many years, it is nice to be back at the library that got me started, the place where my parents took me to get books and taught me to read. So I'm very excited to be here. Over the last 7 days, I visited most of our locations. I'll be visiting the remainder on Friday. But I've been warmly welcomed by the staff, and in nearly every location, community members from the Friends groups have been there. So it's been great to see the great support the community has for the Sacramento Public Library. I look forward to starting the ground running next week and meeting many of you and doing the great work that the library has done under Rivka, and I know will continue great things. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you this afternoon.
Well, welcome to you. And you are filling really, really big shoes, Peter. I know that Vice Mayor Ashby and others are going to want to not only welcome you, but speak to the incredible work of Rivka Sass and what she has meant to this city. Her spirit, her creativity, her ingenuity, her rallying her team in the city in the face of tragedy, and so much more. A well-earned retirement for Rivka, and we welcome you, Peter. And you don't have to fill her shoes or anybody's shoes. You just be your own leader, and I'm sure you will do great. I look forward to meeting you and working together. Let me turn it over to colleagues. I see the Vice Mayor go first.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor, you're going to love Peter. He still has his little library card from when he was in Sacramento as a little boy, and Chair Guerra made sure that he showed it to us during his interview at the library, and it was very sweet. So Peter, welcome. And we're all really, really glad you're here. You have just a dynamite personality. You're going to be a perfect match for Sacramento. I don't have any doubts about that. But I would like to take a minute here. Mindy, is Rivka on the call?
Rivka is on the call. Let me send her a request to promote her to a panelist.
Rivka, please accept this request coming your way from our clerk so that we can bring you on. Mayor, she, as you know, is a very humble leader and doesn't like a lot of attention or recognition. I believe this council will do a resolution thanking her, but right now I would like to give her the opportunity to say something. She has been an incredible Sacramento area leader who not only led this community through economic hardships and keeping libraries open, and of course tragedy, but also when she came on, the library was insolvent and she repaired all of those problems. And Councilmember Shearnier and I spent an awful lot of time trying to help make that happen a few years back, and helping her right the ship with all of the budget issues on the library. And so to Councilmember Jennings led a ballot initiative, and I led one, and I know we're all really proud of Rivka and have had exceptional opportunities to work with her. So did she accept our request, Mindy?
Yes, she is online.
All right, Rivka, I know you want to say some things to this council. Here's your opportunity, my friend.
Well, I think what I really want to say is the Sacramento Public Library Authority Board did an outstanding job in selecting the new director of Sacramento Public Library. I've had the benefit of 3 days of visiting libraries with Peter. Our final day is this Friday, and he is being welcomed with open arms. The Friends of the Library are coming out to greet him. Staff are so excited. So thank you. I can head out into the sunset knowing that Sacramento Public Library is in great hands with a tremendous leader who is just going to do a wonderful job for all of you. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank the council members who have given so much of their time and talent for the Sacramento Public Library. Angelique, you've been there with me almost from the beginning, and we've done some heavy lifting. Rick, you took that mantle on. Eric has been an amazing chair this year as we've dealt with COVID and meeting remotely. It's been fabulous. Councilmember Shearnier was a wonderful member of our board and honestly did so much to try to help us right the ship in some relationships that we have. So all of you who have served on the board have just been amazing. And You're going to love Peter. And I want to say this to the Sacramento community. You are so lucky. So thank you. And thanks for the great opportunity to be library director. It's been the high point of my career to serve Sacramento. And I look forward to bugging you all as a citizen. Councilmember Valenzuela, I have an email prepared for you about something in my neighborhood.
Rivka, you're not going to get off that easy. The mayor has a lineup here, a queue of council members who I'm sure want to share their love for you as well.
Oh, I'm trying to get the order here. I'm sorry. Yes, everybody wants to speak. I've got Councilmember Valenzuela, then Jennings, then Guerra.
Yeah, we couldn't miss the opportunity here. And first, welcome, Peter. I'm really looking forward to meeting you. I'm a big fan of the libraries in my district, but also across the cities. And I'm looking forward to helping you make them continue to be amazing community centers. But to Rivka, who on the first time I met in person, I think we spent about 7 hours together at the Galleria at the warming center that you had opened your doors for. And there's nothing like hanging out with somebody at 1 a.m. to really understand who they are and their personality. And the fact that she was even there was amazing to me. I'm like, what is happening? Like, how come you're here? But it really shows her character and her values and the values that she's instilled in her team, which is just an incredible reflection of who Rivka is in our community and what she's done to make libraries a place for everybody and a place for our entire community to be. And I'm just so grateful for what you showed me is possible. And so, Peter, you have very big shoes to fill, but also just so incredibly grateful that you're a constituent that's going to have so much time now to volunteer for all of the wonderful things happening in District 4. But you are incredible person, Rivka, and I am just so grateful to have got to spend these last few months working with you and looking forward to many, many more.
Thank you so much.
So Rivka, I just want to say you have relentless energy, contagious. Anybody that you touch and come in their presence, your energy just kind of rubs off on them. And then they become just like you, like an energizing bunny, right? and countless ideas and just energy off the hook. So, I really appreciate all that you have done for this library. And what I'm hoping as you take the next step of your life is you take a lot more time for yourself and enjoy life in the way that I know you will. So I just want to thank you for being our library director, and thank you for the leadership that you displayed in that position and all that you've done in the city of Sacramento. Peter, you and I have something in common. You come from a place in New Jersey that my children, my daughter and her husband and her 3 children live there right now. I tried to get them to get to the library to see you before you left, but you had already made a move, so they didn't get a chance to do that, but they did get to see your wonderful library there in New Jersey. So we're welcoming you. We're looking forward to having you. I've heard nothing but great things about you. I've read your resume. You've got an impressive resume. Now I just want to see, can you fit those shoes that Rivka wears every single day? And if you can, we're going to ask you to join us in walking a mile in their shoes, which is a local effort that we do here in Sacramento, where we men walk in women's shoes to see if we can walk a mile in their shoes to raise money for a great cause. I know you get involved in helping to raise money for great community-based organizations and causes. So I'll make sure to invite you to walk that mile so I can take pictures to see if you really can fit those shoes.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Jennings. Councilmember and Chair of the Library Board, Councilmember Guerra.
Let me go back to Councilmember Harris, then I'll close off here.
Go, of course. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Peter, I really look forward to talking to you about books. That's what I wanted to discuss with you, and welcome. I look forward to our meeting. Rivka, it's just an honor to know you. What more can be said? You're just lovely in too many ways to discuss, and I hope to see you around.
Oh, you will, Jeff. I still have plans.
Good. Bring them, girl.
That sounds like a declaration to me.
We have an idea for Councilmember Harris District.
All right, well, I'm ready.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's close, Councilmember Laloe, and then we'll let.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Rivka, it's been an absolute pleasure. Unfortunately, it was too short. On top of that, there were a curveball of pandemic to it too. But one thing I can say is you always know how great of a person someone is with the people around her and what they say about that individual. And I can tell you from the moment that I got elected to any of the council members, my colleagues that have a longer term than I do, it's been 100% how phenomenal you are, what a great person you are, and how hard you've worked to make our library system the way it is. So I appreciate everything you've done. Thank you so much. I know right before the changeover, you played a very important role for us to have a major library in District 2, something that that's phenomenal. Very excited about that. So I know we're gonna have a ribbon cutting. I know you're gonna be there. I know you're gonna be holding that big old scissor. I don't know, Councilmember Ashby knows how to get those scissors. I don't know. So definitely looking forward to seeing you, but I'm very grateful for everything that you've done for the kids, because we all know who uses the library the most. It's the youth and the kids. So thank you so much. And Peter, it's a pleasure. Looking forward to working with you. You had me on your library card from like first grade, I think. And the fact that that card was so beautifully kept, where it's just so perfectly, it's like brand new. That told me you're the perfect person for the job. So very excited, looking forward to working with you. Obviously, you've heard about some big shoes to be filled. But again, I think Rivka has done a great job, and I know you're going to continue to achieve greatness. And I'm really looking forward on the day, which I'm hoping sooner than later, where you and Rivka are actually holding that scissor in front of the brand new library in District 2, which it's a major accomplishment. Again, thank you very much, you both. And Rivka, enjoy all the time all the lovely books that you've been wanting to read, but last year you couldn't. And please visit District 2 brand new library. I want to make sure we give you the first registered card from that library. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Member. I got Council Member Chenier. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Rivka, you've put your heart and soul into the library system, and the city and the community have benefited from that. I'm only sad I lost 2 libraries in redistricting. Bell Coolidge and Colonial are no longer part of D5. But I think both of those libraries have set a great example of what you have really made happen, which is being part of the community and really taking care of their communities in so many different ways. So just want to say thank you. And Peter, look forward to working with you and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Jay. I see Councilmember Vang.
Thanks, Mayor. I will keep it short. I just want to say congratulations, happy retirement, Rivka. You've been such a gem for the city. And I know the first time I met you was when I was a staffer for Councilmember Carr. And we worked on a project to get our students to read so they can get free swim passes. And so it's been such a great time working with you and serving on the Public Library Board as well. We're really going to miss you, but we know you're not too far away and you're still going to be incredibly active. Really just want to thank you for your leadership. And Peter, I'm really excited to work with you as well. And just congratulations. And we have a lot of work ahead. And yeah, just again, congratulations, Rivka, and congratulations to Peter too, to both of you. So.
Excellent. Thank you all, colleagues. Let me turn it back to Councilmember Guerra for some closing comments.
Great, thank you. And it was the search, was very extensive and very long here. And so we are all very proud of being able to have Peter here. And just to name a few projects that Rivka and Peter are going to be walking through. Oh, it just kicked me out of my my Colonial Heights library here. But one, we talked about North Sacramento Library. Peter is, Rivka's transitioning the helm over about making sure that North Sacramento gets a great library. Two, just like I learned to read English from the bookmobiles, Peter is going to be part of not only one, but executing 2 zero-emission electric bookmobiles, one that's going to provide mobile health services because of the library. 3, the opening of the Citrus Heights Library. 4, looking and drilling down at the Martin Luther King Library in Meadowview and addressing the deferred maintenance and improvements. And then 5, the opening and selection of the new and improved Elk Grove Library as well. So just to name a few of the things that Rivka's been downloading with Peter and Peter's taking on here. A lot of great work. We know we got the right person here. Let's go do it. You can do it, Peter. Let's go libraries.
So I just want to close with some, I know you closed, Eric. I just want to say another word about Rivka and say that, a lot of folks come and go and have good, solid, respectable careers. And then there are people who sort of achieve legend status because of their commitment to their mission, because of the way they do their job, because of the way they elevated their part of the public service. And Rivka is in that latter category, a legend, and really deserves all of our gratitude. I think I want to, it's hard with Zoom here, and I can't hand you anything, Rivka, but I would like to hand you something at the appropriate time with my colleagues, and just to let you know how much this city and the county, and we speak for the city obviously, appreciates what you have done to elevate the library system and the role of libraries in our modern community, because it's so much more than just Peter's old library card. And by the way, I hope you don't have any overdue books there, Mr. Coyle, as part of the background check. But it's so much more than that. You've been a safe haven, as Councilmember Valenzuela spoke about. You have, you are a community center. You are a youth program and initiative. And you have made that point successfully over and over and over again. And you leave a big, big mark here. I just want you to know that. Everybody has their time. Your time was legendary. So thank you. Very good. Okay, I'll take a motion to increase the budget for the libraries. Just kidding.
That would be great.
Here we go. All right.
Second that, Mayor. For MLK Library, I'm just putting a plug in.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we consider that kind of stuff in the weeks and the months ahead. Thank you. Great going.
Thank you,
and Eric, thank you for your leadership as chair of the board, and for leading the search to find Mr. Coyle here. So welcome home. All right, members. Let us look at the consent calendar. Are there items that members would like to pull off, be talked about separately? I want to make an amendment, if possible, to item 2 that can be voted on as part of the consent calendar, but I want to speak to a change that I would like to propose making. Any other items, members? I see Councilmember Guerra.
Oh, I was going to make a motion to move the consent calendar, but I'll wait till you make your recommendations.
Okay.
Mayor, I have one question, but my question's for Councilmember Vang. Is that okay?
Yeah, whatever.
Councilmember Vang, on the pending request thing, they included that you wanted the ADA coordinator citywide, which I agree with, but they also included an ask that you mentioned that you wanted the Disability Advisory Commission to present to the council. And I just asked that we let the PMPE process play out first, so we didn't move one committee forward. And I wanted to ask you where you were. I thought you were okay with that, so I wanted to make sure.
I am okay with that. I want to make sure we touch base with the chair of DAC, with Brandy,
Okay.
just because I want to make sure that, you know, it's not like a year from now, but definitely want to make sure that there's an opportunity for them to at least present this year if possible. If the timeline is within this year, I think we should be good. But there are some urgent items that I think needs to be moved on, some recommendation. But I trust that city staff's gonna move on those items. So.
How about Councilmember Vang? How about if we leave it on here, but we ask the clerk to add subject to PMPE's process? Would that be okay?
That would be great. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Councilmember Vang.
All right, thank you. Are there, okay, I got Councilmember Harris, an item you want to consider separately or talk about?
Mayor, Mindy didn't have a chance to make the announcement, but item 16 on the consent calendar is going to be continued for one more week.
Right, okay, very, very good. Yes, thank you for, I know this clerk was going to do that. I'm sorry, I probably jumped ahead, but thanks. We'll include that in the motion as well. I don't see anybody else. Okay, on item 2, members, this is establishing the Racial Equity Ad Hoc as a full committee, which I think is a great, great move. Councilmember Vang and I are the co-chairs. I've talked to a couple of my members, and Councilmember Guetta, who is really a very important member of the committee, but with a heavy workload, as we all do, has graciously agreed to step out this year and let Councilmember Jennings, our only African-American member of the City Council, to serve as a member of the Racial Equity Committee. And I appreciate that very much, Councilmember Guetta and Councilmember Jennings. Thank you for, again, stepping up and stepping forward. And so that's the change I would like to propose as part of item number 2.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, of course, Eric.
I'll go ahead and move the item with the change to number 2, adding, replacing my position on the new standing committee with Councilmember Jennings, and continuing item, was that item number 15, Councilmember Harris?
16.
16, sorry, my apologies. 16 as well. And yes, I want to thank also Youth Forward and our many of the folks from the hub down in South Sacramento who reached out last year and the year before to begin this process. I think it's in good hands with Councilmember Jennings, and I appreciate that this is moving to a standing committee, and also appreciate the work of our co-chairs, Mai and Daryl, and Councilmember Chenier, who we started together the work on this initiative here. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and move the consent calendar.
Very, very good. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Seconded by everybody. Can we hear the public testimony, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few folks signed up to speak. The first one is Michael Alt.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, city manager Michael Alt with the Downtown Partnership, calling specifically on behalf of items 6 and 7 on the consent calendar. I think it goes without saying, nobody really could have predicted the turbulence we've seen over the last couple of years, but I think as we've looked at some of the impacts in the core, with crisis comes some unique opportunities, and we are ready to act in partnership with you. Your team has been incredible. I really want to acknowledge the efforts of Leslie Fritchie, Michael Jasso, Ellen Sullivan. We worked with PD, Code Enforcement, Public Works to try and put together a package to help address some of these challenges and help us leverage our assets to really create an equitable, coordinate response. This opportunity today is unique, but it will bring new light to our historic district in Old Sacramento and help us to invest in the many amenities we have to make the vibrancy of our downtown and to get our momentum back. People are starting to come to work. Yes, we're seeing some impacts, but this ARPA funding will be instrumental And I can't thank the collective efforts of all the partners. Councilmember Chenier, you led the business groups to provide input and feedback, and we greatly appreciate that. We will get back. We will get back our efforts to bring people back to this community, and people are ready to do it. We care about this city. We're grateful for your support, and you continue to have a partner with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for hanging in there, as we all are. Next.
Next speaker is Dean Dalben.
Good afternoon. My name is Dean Dalben. I live in District 8. I have concerns on item 1, the need to hire an employee to address ADA issues. To me, this indicates that our existing departments and employees who are already involved in ADA must not be very successful in managing that task and duties, and need an overall coordinator. And there, of course, will be questions regarding the authority and working with that individual with all the other city agencies that could cause further disturbances. And I think what we already have in place needs to be documented as needing such a thing rather than presuming we need to hire someone and pay them plus whatever staff and supplies they need to do this type of job. On item 2, establishing the Racial Equity Committee, I'm concerned that we really haven't defined our terms in this. What does racial equity really mean, and the racial equity initiative efforts, metrics, and so forth, in a holistic city-informed approach. I don't think there's any definitions agreed upon as to what that is. And the common understanding today seems to imply that equity equals equal results rather than the old term of equality, which meant equal opportunity. So before you approve this, I want to make sure you have your definitions very clear, because I don't want to establish anything in the city that has a great chance to oppose the United States Constitution and federal laws regarding this important civil rights. Insofar as item 9, one thing in there concerns me. Item 5B has a guarantee to avoid anything religious in the school education administering grant. And I'd like to include anything good or bad related to gender, race, age, or economic standing as being not allowed, as well as not allowing religious issues. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for your comments. And the last speaker on the consent calendar is a phone number, last 4 digits 4366.
Oh, yes, this is Lambert up to the Bay and Back Cheesecakes. I'm calling about number 2, establishing the Racial Equity Committee. I'm cautiously optimistic that Mayor Steinberg and also the leader of Heart and Hustle, City Councilwoman Mai Vang, will be chairing that, because they have a background in really pushing for equity. There's always a misunderstanding of something that's obvious to me. There's always a resistance to that, and then people will hide behind Proposition 209. And so you have a big task ahead of you, because there's tremendous resistance to equity. The pending graphs and surveys that come out every year will show that. And so you have a huge supporter of myself, and I pray that you two lead the way, because it's going to be a tremendous uphill battle internally, and that's been proven year in, year out. I mean, if you don't understand racial, if you don't understand equity, then that's a peculiar interpretation. It's something that needs to be addressed, because it's rampant and it's also blatant. So I wish both the mayor and city councilwoman Mai Vang the best as they try to make this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mayor, I have no more speakers.
Thank you. Councilmember Gatta, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I had one question for the staff on the item, I believe it's 6 here. One, I thank you for putting just a lot of work here, but one, if you could clarify or the process for other PBIDs, particularly in the older commercial corridors, who are impacted and are looking for the financial support for clean and safe as well. How would the other PBIDs be able to look at accessing some of this information?
Councilmember Guerra, this is Leslie Fritchie, and I thank you very much for that question. We will be working with our collaborative, the IEDC, on opportunities to for the other PBID areas to access funding for these types of activities and others, and we'll continue in dialogue with them. As you may recall, as part of the small business funding, there's also a lot of opportunities for citywide programs, such as the continuation of the Alfresco program, the City of Festivals program, and a wide variety of citywide programs will be launching the first quarter of this year, and look forward to working with the council members, the PBIDs, and all the chambers and businesses in the city as we launch those additional programs and stay in communication with them as we develop programs and plans for the new year.
Great, thank you, Leslie. I greatly appreciate that. And just two thoughts here. One, if you could reach out to some of those other, the commercial corridors. Some of them do have resources. Others are much smaller in budget, particularly when it comes down to the events. I know one event that's coming up in February is the Lunar Flower Festival and the TED Festival. And not generally the downtown type of events, but one that draws many people throughout the Northern California region to the South Sacramento, Stockton area. So I just want to make sure that there's access, and if there are opportunities for those areas to get it, that they get it. So thank you with that, Leslie, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Let's not forget one other thing, and maybe Leslie mentioned it. I'm sorry I got distracted for a moment, but the council did allocate $3.2 million of ARP money to the IEDC, the PBIDs, that it's not just for their organizations, it's actually for the activities they do. And that's a lot of money, and we have faith in them. And that's why we hope that they put as much of that as possible into this kinds of things that we are approving here tonight. All right. Let's call the roll on the consent calendar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I have an administrative change. You requested that we remove Guerra and add Jennings to the Racial Equity Committee, and that is actually done in item 3. So that amendment will be attached to item 3 where you make the appointments. Item 2 is establishing the committee, and item 3 is appointing to that committee.
Thank you for correcting that. Appreciate it.
So the motion from Guerra and second from Harris includes the amended resolution on item 3 for those updates. Vice Mayor Ashby?
Yes.
Councilmember Laloe?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Valenzuela?
Yes.
Councilmember Chenier?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra?
Aye.
Councilmember Jennings?
Yes.
Councilmember Vang?
Yes.
And Mayor Steinberg?
Yes. All right. Thank you. Good work, everybody. Some really big items on that consent calendar, and money will be well spent. We have one discussion item on tonight's calendar, and that is item 18, which is the Measure U Community Advisory Committee recommendations for the mid-year, which is coming up, and so it's very timely. Who is here to represent the committee? I see Kathy Cresswell. I see...
And Lisa.
And Lisa Prey. Okay. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Kathy Cresswell, and on behalf of the Measure U Advisory Committee, Lisa Prey and I are here tonight and pleased to present our recommendations for the mid-year budget. As a part of our duties and ongoing commitment to ensure the community has a meaningful voice in the expenditure of Measure U funds, we have reviewed the proposed mid-budget cycle revisions and share our following recommendations. You have our letter, so we will be brief and then be prepared to respond to any questions that you may have. So specifically, we have some comments on one-time versus ongoing funding, and the committee urges the council to use the one-time funding that's available from the state and federal government in ways that will really enhance the impact of ongoing particular Measure U investments. There's going to be, the mayor's budget, or excuse me, the governor's budget in particular has a lot of new resources that are going directly to local governments in a variety of ways. And many of those are one-time funding. So again, we urge you to really maximize the impact of those by really targeting them to have the most impact with the Measure U. And we just want to be clear that we oppose the use of any one-time funds to supplant any expenditures that would have otherwise been intended for Measure U. On affordable housing, we support the current proposal for staffing. We think that's really important in our housing activities to support the staff and to have an adequate staff. But we also recommend that the mid-year surplus funding be spent on direct financial investments to support Sacramento residents for maintaining their housing through either mortgage or rental assistance, and where possible, to provide the needed gap funding to build new affordable housing that our communities so desperately need. And then on homelessness, we are really pleased to see the current proposals that are directing funding to the programs and services that really are helping people move from homelessness into permanent housing. So we recommend that any mid-year surplus funding be spent to add to the current 2.8 million homeless initiatives allocation to expand service provision beyond the current proposal for women and children under 14 to include older children, people of other genders, and veterans, to add to the current allocation for respite centers. We know how desperately that is needed. And in addition, to directly funding, again, as you think about how we address homelessness, to directly fund the development of permanent supportive housing, including through the state's Project Home Key, which the city has had some experience, and transitional housing, because it's really critical for the city's successful efforts to end homelessness, to really support adding housing that can provide for that. And now, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Mayor Kathy. Moving on in the letter, the next section deals with senior services. And we do have a growing elderly population in Sacramento. We currently spend through the Measure U funds about $2.2 million on older adult services. If there are additional funds available, we would like to expand the service hours for those services, also provide them more dispersed geographically throughout the community, and make additional language access to services at the Hart Senior Center, the RRR program, and all of the other programs that the city runs to benefit senior citizens. So that would be our recommendation there. Under youth, we're very pleased with the $26.9 million in Measure U funds that are allocated to youth services. And if there are additional funds available, we'd like to use those to expand programming for youth K to 12, but also youth under the age of 24, and to provide culturally relevant services for Native and Hmong youth, and then support a protected and earmarked city fund for children and youth. These last two items on here don't deal with the Measure U funding so much as we would like to see it make it possible to do a little more branding for Measure U funding. We know that the city has been making efforts to identify projects that benefit the city that come from Measure U funds, to make that known to the public. We know from our surveys that a lot of people don't understand what Measure U funds are being used for. So we would like to see a little more concerted effort to identify Measure U projects to the public so that they understand the benefit of their additional sales tax that they're paying. Also, we would like to see the ability to identify by neighborhood where city resources are being spent, financial resources. We understand that there's no comprehensive resource for this within the city, but we feel that it would be very beneficial to know where money is being spent, what neighborhoods are being impacted by city's expenses. And we'd like to see a resource developed to identify that. We think that the city's neighborhood development action team might be an ideal resource for this to guide the development of such a tool. We, of course, would be more than happy to chip in on that and helping that. And we realize that this is being driven primarily from our participatory budgeting pilot program, but we also feel that this would be very helpful for identifying the inclusive economic development portion of the city and also racial equity efforts. And so we're hopeful that that tool might be developed by the city. And we thank you so much for the consideration of these efforts. I really appreciate the audience that we received from the Budget and Audit Committee. They were very enthusiastic and wanted to bring this forward to the entire City Council. So I find that, we thank you so much for that. And we're very grateful too that we're fortunate enough to actually be considering having surplus funds this year. So we thank you very much once again for your attention. And if you have any questions, Kathy and I are more than happy to attempt to answer them.
Thank you, Lisa and Kathy. Thank you to the whole committee for the hard work that you do. This is all volunteer work where your love of community and your desire like ours to see equity and to see this agenda grow is what motivates you to spend time you could be spending otherwise on other pursuits. And so we're deeply grateful to you and the other members of the committee for the work that you do. I just want to say, sometimes we get sometimes people say, you don't tell the people enough what you're doing, and therefore they don't know, and especially, in this environment. Well, Measure U has not been perfect, the second half of Measure U, but it is $50 million additional dollars every single year that between that second half cent and the general fund, because the two do go together, have enabled us to invest well over $100 million in the community like never before. And in all of the categories that you've mentioned where you recognize and you advocate for doing even more. And you're right, and we will do more. But not to smell the roses, but just to acknowledge that second half cent, and I take pride in this, and the council ought to take pride in this, is enabling us to do what we otherwise absolutely would not be able to do. You think about the budgets and how, every year we balance the budget with a little extra or a little not. That's after we've taken this $50 million and invested it. And if we didn't have it, we wouldn't have the community investment and we might not have a balanced budget. So 2018 was a big decision by the voters, and it's reaping benefits. And it's only the beginning because it continues every single year. So thank you. And thank you to my colleagues and to the voters of Sacramento for supporting it. Council Member Vice Mayor Ashby.
I just can't pass a chance to tell Lisa Prey that District 1's so proud of her. Thank you, Lisa, for serving on the committee and for coming forward and talking to my colleagues. Appreciate you. You too, Kathy, but Lisa, my girl. Thank you. That's it, Mayor. And also, I guess I would just add to the one thing you said, Mayor. I know the second half of Measure U hasn't done everything everyone wanted, but it's done more than it could have possibly done if it wouldn't have passed. So good for us to have that. And I too share Kathy and Lisa's excitement that we have money to do something more this year. That's great news.
Absolutely. Okay, Councilmember Guerra, then Councilmember Vang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just wanted to thank the Measure U Committee. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Lisa. Really appreciated your presentation at the Budget and Audit Committee. Two things. One, it was very clear from the committee that we wanted to hear this item before we come to the budget, mid-year CAF for the mid-year budget, so that we look at all of these needs in context. I think, if we were to go and do them piecemeal one by one, we would, every individual need is significant, but we would be done with every penny we have before we even get to the mid-year budget hearing. So, but I think it was good for the council to look at what are what the Measure U Committee sees as priorities. I think obviously housing and homelessness is first and foremost. I do also believe that one-time money should be used for one-time expenses as well. Dealing with gap financing for some of these projects. I know we have projects that are ready to go in many of our cities. To be able to build and construct, I think, is an important one. Plus, just when we do have sites and available land for some of the facilities for providing a respite and support for those who are unhoused, I think is a critical one. The last, I just wanted to, I'm glad that the piece of senior citizens came out, because I had the opportunity to go to the Hart Senior Center, where they had a Spanish service program there before the holidays, and many of those seniors had not had an opportunity to leave their homes or to have any kind of interaction, and so in a safe way, this was a way to be able to provide something for many of our seniors who who have been also like many of us quarantining and staying safe. But I'll go back to, I think, in my opinion, when we look at some of this one-time money, how can we do it so that it pays dividends in the future? So the one-time capital, the one-time construction of things. I'm looking forward to seeing this in the context of the overall budget need and identify those as some of the priorities.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Vang.
Thank you, Mayor. I too also just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Kathy and Lisa. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I'm really glad that this item is coming to council, because we just discussed this item at the Budget and Audit. So really grateful that my colleagues are able to see it now, and our city manager as well, as we're preparing for the mid-year budget priorities. That's absolutely really important. So I just want to say thank you so much. I think something that definitely stood out for me, I think a lot of these items to City Manager Chan and the mayor, I anticipate that we'll see this in the mid-year budget with some of the surplus. But I think what really stood out to me was around the mapping place-based investments. I know that the Racial Equity Committee and AMI has been working on an interim tool to really measure our impact on ARPA dollars. And I still believe we need like an external facing dashboard to really track our investment across all neighborhoods. That's going to be really critical. And so definitely looking forward to learning more and hearing more about this. I think on my end, want to follow up with NDAT as well on, exploring the possibility of what that may look like. And so just really want to say thank you for all your work. Like the mayor said, this is all volunteer work, all hard work. And I want to make sure that, these recommendations are not just on a piece of paper or in our emails, but that we actually read it and apply it to our mid-year priorities. So with that, just really want to thank you both, and also everyone on the Measure U committee for their service.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Vang. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Kathy and Lisa, and the whole Measure U committee. I know you spend so much time, and I don't think we always appreciate how much time we're asking of volunteers in the community, and documents and reading and sitting on PMPE, as Vice Mayor Ashby told me when I joined the committee, is one of the most rewarding things, because you get to see people who are just so ready to give, and seeing the product is just really, really cool. And I really support the recommendations you're laying out for Measure U. And I also wanted to piggyback off of what Councilmember Guerra, our Mayor Pro Tem Guerra, just left off with. And Hart Senior Center is an amazing amenity. in District 4. I love it. I live very close to it. I go by that park all the time. And it is such a sad thing to see it be so unutilized in COVID. I can't wait till we can start getting reopened. But, when you think about one-time investments versus system investments, and, something I hear a lot from like seniors and young people, things like streetlights in neighborhoods, things like sidewalk repairs, things like street repairs, especially when there's been accidents near schools, near community centers. I think there's just a lot we can think of when it comes down to like basic services, even stuff like trash cans. I can't tell you what I've learned. The poor public works department, I've asked so many questions about like, why can't we put trash cans in these areas where there's litter? And it's like, it's a complicated thing to pay for. And it takes general fund money, to really commit. So I think when we think about one time versus programmatic, I hope that some of these other things can also be put into the hopper. I think these are things that we, those basic services that I get why constituents email me and are frustrated, seniors who are used to walking around who this time of year are like, great, now I can't leave my house after 4 p.m. because the street is dark and they don't like it. And I don't blame them. So I really hope that, so that we can, I'm really excited about this conversation, and I'm thankful for the framework that you proposed and just the broadness of it too, and sort of leaving space for us to have a discussion about like, hey, what would this look like in each of our districts? So thank you very much for that, and looking forward to the discussions coming up here in the next couple weeks.
Good, very, very good. Midterm, we have a lot of talk about mid-year budget, and we just have to first see what the revenue is and what the available resources are before we actually start deciding. We can't spend or invest unless you have it, depending on how much we have. So we still have to know that, and we will soon. So
well, we appreciate your thoughtful consideration, and we stand ready to support and continue these discussions. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you again, both Lisa and Kathy and the entire committee. Okay.
Bye.
Very good. Very good. Is there public testimony on this item?
Yes, Mayor, I have 3 hands raised. The first is
okay.
The first is Dean Dalben.
Thank you again, Dean Dalben, District 8. I'd like to say that this number 18 should not be approved because it is incomplete. It needs to be made relevant and useful so it is understood how the city is spending Measure U funds. It gives summary information, identifies a limited numbers of what they consider to be priorities. There's no real money amount shown as to Measure U funds thus spent and continuing to be recommended for these variety of things, and it ignores many other priorities that the city departments must address. I won't go over that list. I did send in a document for you all to consider, along with the document that I sent to be considered for the other items that I spoke of earlier on the consent calendar. But in addition, I think one of the items that I didn't speak of earlier, but is touched upon in Measure this recommendation is item 17 on the shelter crisis. A lot of talk has been made during this meeting regarding homelessness, the unsheltered, low-income housing, and so forth. I want to remind the mayor, I attended a meeting before Measure U was voted on, where you attended with developers, homeless advocates, low-income housing advocates, and with a wink and a smile, you said we're supporting Measure U because we can get this passed with a majority of votes. If we had chosen to address specific budget items such as homelessness and funds for homelessness, you knew it would not pass because it would not reach the required passage rate. So again, with a wink and a smile, you got Measure U, you got a lot of money, and you're focusing it on things that had you put up individually as items to be voted on, it would have gone down in defeat. So please use this money and the surplus to help all of the city of Sacramento. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. I know it's not practice for me to respond to public comment. I haven't really done that since my first year as mayor, but I'm going to do it now because I understand the caller may not have full information, and I urge you to look at my blog. We'd be happy to send you all the information. The city has invested $119 million of Measure U and general fund money since the passage of the second half of Measure U in housing, homelessness, youth, and inclusive economic development. $119 million. So you're just plain wrong. It was not a wink and a nod. It was a general tax. Yes, it was. That was, quote, political because we could pass it with a majority vote. And then I have been, and my colleagues have been steadfastly dedicated to investing it into the community. And yes, sometimes general fund and Measure U overlap. It's green is green. But you look at the record, we're doing exactly what it is we promised and change the investment arc of the city. So I don't want to hear from anybody that the city isn't spending money on homelessness and housing. Give me a break. WX Shelter, Meadowview Shelter, Grove, all the Project Homekey projects, Capitol Park Hotel. A lot of good work is being done. And I'm the first one on this dais, as you know, to say we have to do more and we have to push more. But this city is stepping up like never before. The results aren't what we all want to see yet because the problem has grown larger because of COVID and because of and poverty and a lot of factors, and we're staying at it. But that's just plain not true what the caller said about Measure U. We are following through on our promises big time, and the record reflects it. Next caller, please.
Next speaker is Daniel Savala.
Thank you. Good evening, Daniel Savala, El Paso Boulevard Partnership in North Sacramento District 2 resident. And I'd like to second that, Mayor, and say that we have seen a tremendous amount of investment, and we thank the City Council for a new library, for a new sports center, to a $5 million commitment to Del Paso and Marysville, and all the other host of things that we've done collectively as a community with Measure U. I wanted to make two quick comments tonight. Is one on these one-time surplus monies on continuing to support the homeless and housing. I would really like to see the city explore permanent housing and the adaptive reuse, using of old empty buildings along Del Paso Boulevard. Some sort of program or outreach about that with Measure U is a real creative way to create housing. Perhaps a program that boosts the number of ADUs built in North Sacramento. We have these old deep interior lots that are ripe for accessory dwelling units. So we'd love to help partner with the city to help proliferate the development of those in the next year. And lastly, I'd really like to commend the committee for their recommendation on the place-based tool. You know, largely in Sacramento, it's a complaint-driven when it comes to city services using 311. To this day, it's very hard to see where the calls are going and where most resources end up. So I think it's a smart idea to start having this conversation with Measure U. We need a place-based tool or some sort of investment mechanism to see where monies are going over the next couple of years. With that, I wish you all a happy new year, and I'm so happy to see everyone back. Have a good night.
Thanks, Daniel.
Next speaker is a phone number, last four digits 4366.
Yes, this is Lambert. I wanted to call in and thank the mayor because as a person who attended many Measure U meetings, I have a lot of concrete data that I was invited to a lot of Measure U meetings. He is getting a lot of things done. That was a wonderful
Give him 4
thing.
minutes. Give him 4 minutes.
Well, no, I only need 2. I don't want to waste people's time. But I did want to say that as a person who does understand Measure U monies, because I was there, I am definitely for more money being spent on the Marysville corridor. I always hear about the Del Paso Boulevard, but if you know this community, and I do, since 1946 my family's been here, if you drive down Del Paso Boulevard and don't look at the road, you'll get to Marysville and you won't even know you switched boulevards physically because it goes on into Raleigh Boulevard. So I agree. Mr. Lololi should definitely fight for Marysville Boulevard to get more funding. There's a lot of talented people in Del Paso Heights with degrees and certifications, just like To the Bay and Back Cheesecakes has state and federally certification, and we've been that way for years. And so I'd like to see also the California Black Chamber get a lot more money. When I studied the Metro Chamber and the Asian Chamber and even the Hispanic Chamber, they get a lot of money, and they deserve it, I guess. But put some money into groups like that, and definitely put some money into the Bay and Back cheesecakes. I bet you we're the only cheesecake company that's applied for funding.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Will you make your final comment, please?
Yeah, thank you for Minty. She should get a raise. She's in the chamber every time I look on TV.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Mayor, I have no more speakers.
Mindy wanted to give Mr. Davis 4 minutes, not me. Here we go. Okay. It's all good. Thank you for calling. Are there council ideas and questions?
Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think Michelle Dozier is still here. If we could ask, I have a question for her.
Go ahead. Michelle, are you on the Zoom?
I know she was.
Do you want to, why don't we come, you want us to come back and see if, come back to you, Jay?
No, well, Chris, I know the deputy city manager, Conlon, is here. So let me say this. Here's my question, if we can get an answer and hopefully agendize for next week. On December 7th, I had asked a question about 8 vacant lots in Oak Park and asked that they be brought back to the city council. At that point, SHRA was looking at developing 3 of them over the next 8 months. This has been a long-standing discussion. In the conversation with Ms. Dozier at council, we had talked about bringing them back today at the SHRA or at the Housing Authority meeting, which obviously got canceled earlier this afternoon. We didn't want to wait till February. So if we can get that on the agenda for next week on the city council agenda, so the council can make some decisions about how to move forward on those 8 lots. And Ms. Dozier had also suggested providing our office. We had sent some questions in and have not got a response. So if, and she had said she would get us information prior to the meeting. If we can get that in the next couple of days, that would be great as well. Howard, I don't know, I see you're on the line here. I don't know if you remember that conversation.
No, I wasn't, but I don't see Michelle on here. I can't see all the participants, but I will connect with her and follow up on your behalf.
Okay, thank you. So if we could get that agendized for next week, I know she did not want to let it go another month. So if we could do that, there are 8 lots that we should be getting started on. She's actually listed as a participant as I look at the participant list. So I don't know. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Chenier. Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just brief announcement. Stanford Settlement will be offering COVID testing and vaccines on Thursday, January 13th from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. For more information, please visit the Stanford Settlement website. Thanks, Mayor.
Good, thank you very much.
Mayor, can
yes.
I answer for
I'm
Michelle?
sorry, Councilmember.
No.
Vice Mayor, excuse me. Vice Mayor.
This for Councilmember Chenier. Michelle is watching, but not on the line. She says yes, she'll put it on the agenda, Jay.
For next week.
For next week. Yep, I told her that.
Okay.
She's just not a panelist, so she can't respond, but that's what she said.
Very good. Thank you. Wonders of technology. Good. All works. Vice Mayor, did you have another comment? You were up on the. No? Okay. Anybody else? Is there public testimony on items not on the agenda?
I have one hand raised. Phone number last 4 digits, 4366. Mr. Davis.
Mr. Davis. Lambert. Go ahead.
I don't think I've ever called 3 times in one night.
Well,
but I am.
It's the first.
Well, I am inspired because this is a new year, and I'm starting to see the right people on the right committees because, as people will know this year, my family has a tremendous following now in the entire city. So it doesn't matter what the districts look like to us. Cheesecake Supply, they appeal to most races, most cultures, and both sexes. And because the millennials have embraced us, I mean, I'm a baby boomer, so I'm learning from them how to deal with City Hall. And they are very astute at what they guide me with because my focus is on cheesecakes and filling out the paperwork and meeting deadlines, which I have done. So I'm saying to the city, to the mayor and the city council, especially Mr. Lololi, it's really time to really take us serious now. We have a lot of people we can hire. We have 2 manufacturers now, one in Northern California, and we've always had one in Southern California, and it's time to go. You know, we have some brilliant people we can hire. A lot of them are going to come from Del Paso Heights, alumni from Grant High School. Shout out to Grant High School. And it's time. We've had tremendous difficulty with the city manager's office and some of his staff members over the years. We still have yet to receive the memo that he sent to the mayor and city council, and he stated that in November. And so, according to the millennials, all he had to do was e-blast us. And now we're receiving things from the records department saying they're going to send us something in February.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Will you make your final comment, please?
It's time to go, Mr. Lololi. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker is Dean Dalben.
Thank you again for allowing me to participate. I know there's a lot of conversation regarding the issue of homelessness, low-income housing, and efforts to make the lives of those people better. But in all this material, I never see the city council ever really mentioning, other than providing money to provide housing, I see nothing there helps them reduce the cost of housing and rents for developers and builders. I see no examination made concerning the impact of drug and alcohol use and mental emotional issues that contribute to homelessness. I see nothing related to criminal activity and behavior that contributes to this problem. Nothing on how government housing policies themselves contribute to these issues. Nothing regarding the budgets for government funds and other incentives, tax and otherwise, that make solving this problem so expensive. I've read many, many articles that I'm sure everyone there knows it costs a ridiculous amount of money to build an apartment in a building for low-income housing compared to buying an actual house. I've seen numbers from $350,000 to over $400,000. Conversion of existing motels for the homeless, incredible costs. I never see anything regarding the income that those who are homeless receive, whether it's SSI, Social Security, pensions of other types, or needs-based program. I never hear anything about them contributing to pay for motel vouchers other than being provided a voucher. So please look for more different ways to be successful, because what you've done so far in the past has failed. And thanks for the shout out for Grant Union High School, where my father taught and ended up as a vice principal for many years. I attended grad high school activities as a small child, sold tickets for the Grant El Camino games, and thank you very much for that acknowledgement of Grant Union High School.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Mayor, I have no more callers.
Very good. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. I do see Councilmember Jennings up. Rick, did you have a comment?
Yes, Mayor. And I apologize for not getting to you earlier, but this past Sunday, I had the opportunity to go to the Hicks family home to honor their father, their grandfather, Albert Hicks Sr., who turned 100 on Sunday. And I just want to tell you a little bit about him, because he retired from work, but he never stopped working. He spent his time working in the community. He even worked along some great, one of the greats, Marion Woods, whose name we know here in Sacramento. He worked in the Glen Elder neighborhood. He worked in the Meadowview neighborhood. He worked on the Sacramento Economic Community Council, and he worked tirelessly for the Golden Empire Boy Scouts. He was honored by Councilwoman Bonnie Pennell for his work in Meadowview. And he's 100 years old. He's strong as an ox. He loves football. He loves his family. And I just want to, he couldn't come into the council to get his resolution, but I just want to let everyone know that Albert Hicks Sr. is someone that has made a difference in the city of Sacramento. And I wanted to call his name out and let you know who he was and the impact that he's made.
That is great. Please wish him a happy birthday of having the entire city 100 years young. That's a big deal. And the Raiders won on Sunday, you know, in honor of him and you, I'm sure too.
There's no question.
Okay. So members, if there's nothing else to come before us this evening, thank you. Thank you to the staff. Thank you to the members of the public. We are adjourned.